lonely hearts, troubled minds, looking for a way that we can never find. Many roads are ahead of us, with choices to be made.
Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Buffet on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Buffet on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, heard Love by Intuition, heard Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., and live many times at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're tuning in for the first time, I'm the owner and founder of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. We're syndicated, Boston-based, and we're the media partner for the Omega Institute. We have a great show for you today. If you're tuning in and you've never heard Love by Intuition, it's all about love, really self-love. It all starts with going within and finding out, our truth of who we are and letting go thoughts and beliefs that just don't serve us anymore. And I think if we all healed ourselves within, we'd have a love fest of a universe here. So we have Warren Farrell. Now, for those that may listen to the show, he's been on before, and the amazing book, The Boy's Crisis. Get the book. It is amazing. In fact, we are, for April, is Dream Vision 7 Book of the Month. And if you'd like to listen to that previous show, just go on Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7, radio.com, and put Warren Farrell in, and up will come the show, and you can listen to that. Today, we are going to be talking about couples communication. Warren is at the Omega Institute May 10th through May 12th in Rhinebeck, New York. And it's going to be all about learning a method of actively listening to your partner without feeling defensive. And the trick is why we have the inability to handle personal criticism is huge. So, Warren, why don't we start with that? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm looking forward. I had a wonderful discussion with you last time, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I did as well. I enjoyed you so much. That's why I invited you back. So why is it so hard for all of us to receive criticism, especially from loved ones?
I think if we look at it from, first of all, completely not blaming ourselves perspective, which takes us back into our biology and our history. Historically speaking, if we heard criticism, it might have been from an enemy kinship network, an enemy tribe, an enemy nation, and so it was biologically functional to get up our defenses. So we wouldn't be, if this was an enemy, we wouldn't be defeated by the enemy. Or alternatively, that we killed the criticizer before the criticizer killed us. And so becoming defensive to criticism was historically and biologically functional. However, for becoming defensive when our partner feels critical of us is very dysfunctional for love. So in a way, we were falling in love was biologically natural, but sustaining love is biologically unnatural. And the things that we did that were part of our biology, falling in love in order to be able to procreate and becoming defensive in order to be able to defend against somebody that was likely to kill us, that was all functional historically, but it's no longer functional. It's not functional for relationships. Excuse me, my phone rang and I got thrown off there.
Yes.
And so so what's very important is to understand first that all of us are likely to become defensive when we're criticized, and so we have to we have to be able to in a sense, forgive ourselves for that likely propensity, but also know that while it was functional for survival, it was completely dysfunctional for being able to provide a safe environment for your partner to feel really loved and heard, and having his concerns be able to be shared without feeling like there's a good chance that they'll just have a defensive response, which will lead to an escalation and therefore lead you to the conclusion that ultimately, why share what you're concerned about, because every time you do, it only ends up worse rather than better, and you end up not heard in a big fight. And so you become more and more cautious. Ultimately, you're walking on eggshells, and then you become vulnerable to somebody else you meet in a plane or someplace, understanding you because they don't have so much love for you, so they're not feeling so defensive, and then you go off and have an affair, and you feel that, or you don't have an affair, but you remain psychologically divorced, or in what I call a minimum security prison marriage.
Yes. And how many people are living that? And it's understandable, because for all of us to understand each other, that is a feat as well. Many times when we're having conversations, we're really thinking about what we want to say instead of listening. And a lot of times we're just misunderstanding someone else's perspective. So how, and I know that you actually train couples and psychologists, and you call it the art and discipline of love, which I love that. So why is it so hard for us to get along? Why is it so hard for us to even understand each other? What goes on with that?
Because when we love somebody, we don't want to lose them. We don't want to hurt them or feel that we did anything to hurt them. And so when somebody, when a woman says to a man, or a man says to a woman, you did this wrong, you bothered me, or this upset me, the person hearing that feels like, I want to explain my intent. I want to explain why I didn't mean that. I want to explain. And the more you love somebody, the more vulnerable you feel. And because the more you love somebody and you feel vulnerable, you have your armor off, you want to be receptive to them, and so the criticism hurts more. So if you say to someone, if you say to somebody, if you think about if you're single and or remember when you were single and you were dating, and you you went out with somebody and you didn't have that much interest in them, and then maybe you're a woman and you're talking to your girlfriends the next day, and you said, went out last night, he was so. I'm hoping he doesn't call back, and so but if you really felt, my goodness, this could be the man of my life, you're hoping he does call back, and then maybe he doesn't call back for a week, and the women might get together and say, oh, what a jerk, and so they objectified him as a jerk, because it hurts less to be rejected by a jerk than it does to be rejected by a full human being. The more we love somebody, the more we want to distance ourselves from the pain of any rejection by that person. If you didn't care for that person who you dated, and they didn't call back, there's no reason to objectify the person. And so we all do this in various ways. And so. What I train people in my workshop to do is to move the step beyond active listening. Active listening taught people to share, when say one person shared what his or her concern was, it taught the person who was listening to share what they heard their partner say. The problem is that we all, underneath it all, want to become defensive and defend ourselves from having done badly. So the active listening process makes it very safe for the person who is talking about what concerns them, because their partner says, is this what I heard you say? And you say, yes, that's right. And so your partner ends up being able to share what she or he heard the person who was complaining say. However, the problem with that is that it took away the the defense that person needed to not feel badly, and it also made them repeat the criticism another time. And so what the result of active listening studies have shown is that that people do active listening quite well with a therapist, but almost never do it outside of the therapist's office because they don't want to deal with the vulnerability of hearing the criticism. And so my take was that the criticizer is not really safe unless the person hearing the criticism feels safe. So what I do is to say that basically 166 hours a week out of 168 hours in a week, 166 hours is a conflict-free zone. And then I teach people in the course, couples in the course, how to maintain that conflict-free zone. And then I have them share the criticisms that they might have or the concerns that they may have. I have them share that in the remaining 2 hours. So it usually ends up being that, somebody, but before the person hears what their partner is concerned with or feels critical of, that may be personal, the partner moves into an altered state in which I have them trained with 6 mindsets that they use before they hear their partner's concern or their partner's criticism. And so those 6 mindsets are things like having each person know. I train the couples to know that any time they provide a safe environment for their partner's feelings, no matter what their partner says and no matter what tone they say it in, the more their partner will feel a guarantee of safety, and that guarantee of safety makes their partner feel that they can be more themselves, and that makes them feel more loved by their partner, and that makes them feel more in love with their partner. So before they hear their partner's criticism, that's an example of one of 6 mindsets that I have the person who's hearing the criticism or the concern go through. And so that's like that's example of one mindset. Another mindset I ask couples to do is to look at they sit across from each other and they ask the question, if your partner was about to die, like maybe drown or in a car accident, and you had an instinct that you could save their lives with 100% certainty, but you'd have a 50% chance of losing your own life, would you do it? And in the workshop, usually about 98% of men say that they would be willing to risk their life at a 50% level to save their partner's life. And this includes couples, maybe 25-30% of the couples in the workshops are thinking about getting a divorce, and the men are still willing to risk their life.
What about the women? Are they
the women? It's about an 85% level on the part of the women on average. And so the one thing I do that has more impact on the women than the men is to say, make believe you didn't have children involved, so that you isolate, because many women are not willing to die because they don't want to lose the protective responsibilities for their children. So this isolates for the women. How much do you care about your husband or your boyfriend or your male partner? And it's also many people in the workshops, not many people, but about 10% of the people are gay couples. So there's really very little difference between gay and straight couples on most of these issues. And so the problem of once you love somebody, that's the key separator, whether it's mother and daughter, mother and son, parent and child. About another 5% of people at the workshops are parents and children. And so the process of not being able to listen to somebody that you love is the really important part of the process. And so then I have them sit next to each other and say, well, now listen, here you have next to you a person who's willing to be very likely to die so that you would live. So if this person is willing to die for you, maybe you could listen to him or her.
Right.
And so it puts that into perspective. But the important thing is before they hear anything that is of concern to their partner that may or may not include them, but usually does include them, they do a meditation into an altered state, So instead of responding from a sense of defensiveness and being attacked, they're responding from a sense of, here is an opportunity to be more deeply loved. And so first the job is to make the person that's the object of the concern or the criticism, to make that person safe, feel safe inside of themselves. When the person hearing the criticism feels completely safe, then the partner is much safer. The person giving the criticism is much safer. And so